couple of more minutes to come in. There's lots of folks coming in. While they're coming in, I'll introduce myself. I'm Harvey Ferdman. I'm president of the Maryland Heights Township Club here in West County of St. Louis, Missouri. And we also have with us the president of the Creve Coeur Township Democratic Club, Florence Pullen. We meet jointly and welcome all of you to our meeting tonight. This meeting is also being live streamed on YouTube and can be viewed later, so it is being recorded. And with that, I will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And let's see if I can share my screen here. There we go. Wrong screen. Do that. There we go. Can you guys see the flag okay? Okay. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And there is a flag on the moon. Okay. Thank you. We have a number of elected officials and folks running for office on the call with us tonight. It's kind of hard for me to keep up with everybody on and run the meeting and all that at the same time. So folks who are office holders, if you would introduce yourselves, unmute, and we'll just kind of take turns. I know Sydney Jackson. No, I'm sorry, wrong. Let's see, who's on? I saw Tracy McCreary on before.
I'll say hi. Hi, it's Representative Tracy McCreary. I'm in year 9 in the Missouri House, so I'm in my last year in the House side of the building. This week on the House floor, we expect to hear the bills regarding congressional maps. The House Budget Committee has really been spending hours and hours on the supplemental budget. That's the money we have to get put in place before our fiscal year ends June 30th. And if we don't get going on some of that, we're going to lose some money. And then we even have an omnibus agriculture bill that's coming to the floor this week. So lots going on the House side. And also the governor has his State of the State address on Wednesday at 2 o'clock. So you'll be able to watch that live if you'd like. And then Crystal Quaid, our leader, will be doing a press conference afterwards, and I'll be doing some commentary afterwards as well via MissouriNet. So please tune in. Thank you.
Excellent. Others that want to introduce yourselves? Oh, and Tracy, you're also running for office, right?
That's right. Thank you for reminding me. I'm running for the Missouri State Senate for Senator Jill Shoup's spot in the 24th District. And I do have Senator Shoup's support, which means the world to me. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Are there any other office holders? Okay, hearing none. We will move on to candidates. We do have 2 candidates for Parkway School Board that I will be introducing in a moment. Are there other candidates online with us tonight? Okay, hearing none. We will start with Philip Caldwell. The floor is yours for 2 minutes, which we're happy to have you talk to our group, and thanks for running.
Thank you guys very much for taking the time for me to get to introduce myself and show my face to everybody. My name is Philip Caldwell, born and raised in St. Louis, North County. Went to LA after studying music education to study audio engineering. Met a girl, followed her up to Seattle when she got offered to get her master's in education. Married that girl, moved back to St. Louis about just under 2 years ago. She is a 5th grade teacher at St. Louis Public Schools. Music ed, like I said, my whole life. Now I live in Creve Coeur. Just had a brand new daughter. She's 7 months old. She's going to bed right now, so I can't be too loud. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to get involved on a local level, I still got a minute, cool. When I was out and on the West Coast, I heard a lot of like good. Glad you got out. I bet you're glad that you left St. Louis. And I always thought, why? St. Louis is like so underrated. I really love it. I think it's a great place. And so when I came back, I knew I wanted to get involved at the ground level. I wanted to get involved with what I thought was a really great city and county. So I thought the school board was a really good opportunity. Education is a huge part of our family's life. My daughter is going to be going to Parkway schools for a long time coming since she's only 7 months now. So I thought right now is the best time to get involved, to get the groundwork laid. I have clearly long-term goals for Parkway being a great school district and one of the top ones in the county, and not just the next 5 years or the next 10 years, but really long-term goals as far as Eileen goes. My wife is Vietnamese American, so I've got a mixed race daughter. So diversity in the school board, in the school system, is one of the big things that I'm concerned about and stuff like that, and how that is taught. And I think that is just about my 2 minutes. Actually, I put on a little stopwatch so I wouldn't go over. So I will go ahead and mute myself again. Thank you guys very much. Caldwell for Parkway on Facebook if you want to reach out to me and ask me any direct questions.
Well, thank you. That was fantastic. And next we will hear from Jeffrey Spector.
Yes, thank you very much. Along with Philip, I also am running for Parkway School Board. I am a Parkway kid through and through. Graduated. I'm an alumni of Parkway. My wife as well. My mother was a teacher in the district for 16 years. And I have two daughters who go currently to Green Trails in kindergarten and second grade. I love Parkway. Parkway is an amazing district. There's always ways to make it better. There's a lot of attacking public education right now going on in the United States. I don't think it needs to be attacked because it's not broken. We need to enhance Parkway, make it better, make it a destination district, make the curriculum where all students feel represented. We need to make sure that there's equity, diversity, inclusion on all levels. I saw what was going on in the Rockwood School District, for anyone that may have seen what was going on. And that was a big reason for me wanting to get involved. I thought the divisiveness going on in Rockwood was something I wanted to ensure did not happen in Parkway. Again, Parkway kid, and the district is a destination district, and we need to continue that in the future. I thought this was a perfect time, as I stated, now that both my children are in the district. It's obviously a highly contested race. There's 10 candidates, which is sort of unprecedented. I know there's been some large elections, and all I can say is, any support that I can get is welcomed, and I am open to any questions or comments. You can reach me on Facebook as well. Jeffrey Spector for Parkway School Board. I'm very open to any conversations, communication whatsoever, and just appreciate all the support I've gotten so far. And again, public education is the backbone right now, and we need to make sure that backbone is strong and does not get torn down. So I appreciate everyone's time. Harvey, I think you're on mute.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. That was very good use of your time. I appreciate your staying within the time limit. There is a question. Well, first off, please put your contact information in the chat. And second, there was a question about how many open seats are there?
Yes, there's 2 open seats. Both Pam Hill and Dr. Sorrentino are no longer going to be on the board. They've decided not to run as well. So there are 2 seats open and 10 candidates.
Okay, and we will invite you both back in the future. When is the election for this?
April 5th.
Okay, we will have you back. We need to put together a program around school board and take it from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And best of luck to both of you.
Thank you again.
Okay, with that, we now move on to our main program. We have 3 distinguished members of the Missouri Democratic Party here to talk to us about what's happening in the party, what the future looks like, what we're doing to implement the dreams and words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And so we have Michael Butler, chair of the Missouri Democratic State Party. Nelson Mitten, who is chair of the St. Louis County Central Committee, which is the largest county in Missouri, I believe, in terms of number of townships and stuff. So that's a very serious role. There are many counties that only have 1 or 2 townships, or if that. We have many, I think it's 28 or 30 townships in St. Louis County. So that's a very important role. And we have Al Gerber, who is the chair of Missouri 2nd Congressional District Democratic Party. And with that, I guess we'll start with Michael Butler and move through the guests and then open up for questions.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Harvey. And thanks everyone for joining the call and being a part of the Democratic Party this election cycle, as well as being a part of your local township committees. Very important. I see a lot of my friends on the call and just want to say hey to everybody. I couldn't name everybody without not to spend a lot of my time on it, but good to see everyone. And thanks for the leaders that will be following me as well for being here. I do have a short presentation to share with you all that I like to share my screen now. And everybody can see, give me a thumbs up. You can see our playbook here, a little logo there. Thank you. We've developed in the party a short-term plan for now, the Missouri, which we call the Missouri Democrats playbook. It's based loosely off the Stacey Abrams playbook out of Georgia. There are some things that can work here that worked in Georgia, but quite a few things that we had to, cater to ourselves and make better for us. We're going through a long-term strategic planning process that some folks on this call, including Harvey, of course, is involved in. But this is for the meantime, our short-term plan I want to share with many of you all today, if you haven't seen it so far, and just portions of it. To start, I do want to talk about. We like to start with some myths that we like to debunk from last cycle. We didn't have a very good cycle last year, but guys, all is not lost. In 2020, we want to let folks know that there's a myth that Democrats can't win elections in rural Missouri. Guys, that's absolutely untrue. There are over 300 countywide elected officials in rural Missouri who are Democrats. These are your prosecuting attorneys. These are a recorder of deeds, collectors of revenues. These are folks who have won for years in rural Missouri. There are about 300 of them that won in 2018, they won in 2016, and they're in 2020, they're continuing to win elections in rural Missouri. There's a myth that Trump won by 18% in this state, and the state is too far gone. Guys, that's absolutely not true. The first thing I say is that, one, guys, we got hit by COVID pretty bad. We made the choice as a party and as a lot of candidates to protect our voters rather than turn them out last cycle. We were very clear in making sure that we were going to respect the health of our voters. And we lost quite a few percentage points because of that. But we're not going to do that cycle. We're going to push through COVID. Our party's doing much better in COVID. We're also going to take that into account. We're going to keep people safe while still turning them out. It's also important to know that the last time a presidential candidate invested in Missouri was in 2008, and Obama lost by just 1.8%, while Democrats won 6 of 7 statewide elections that year, including voting out an incumbent Republican. It's been so long ago. We forget Jay Nixon was elected in 2008. There was not a Democrat before he became our Democratic governor was Republican in place before then. We can do that again in this state, and we plan to do that in 2024. Another myth is that Missouri is not important enough a state to make an investment. Wrong. If the U.S. Senate is ever going to be a filibuster breaking majority of 60, the path must go through Missouri. And we have 2 shots at the apple of that. One this cycle in an open seat as Wade Blunt is retiring, and another next cycle to defeat Josh Hawley and everything he stands for in the United States Senate. And lastly, there's a myth that Trump voters won't vote for Democrats. It's just not true, guys. Over 100,000 Trump voters split their ballot and voted for Democrats in statewide offices in 2016. We saw this all across the state. We saw Trump Coster signs, Trump candor signs. There are quite a bit of Trump voters out there that will come back to us, and that we hope to come back to us. Now he's either off the ballot or that we make a greater stance for them out and show up better in parts of the state that we should. With that, I do want to talk about what the party has accomplished in 2021. In the past year, the first year of this cycle, we could reconnect with local Democrats in every region of the state, reaching out to those county elected officials. I myself am a recorder of deeds in the city of St. Louis. So I understand their plight and have been reaching out to quite a few of those county collectors and county prosecutors very well. We've rebuilt our MissouriDemocrats.org website. We have a brand new website. Please go check it out. Make a contribution if you like to. We got full buy-in across the state for our Missouri playbook, which I'll talk a little bit more about a little bit. We kicked Republican butt on both the state legislative redistricting commissions, guys. We're going to be picking up seats in both the Senate and the House, and that's thanks to a lot of the commissioners and a lot of the work we put in getting ahead of Republicans throughout the year. We registered thousands of voters locally and online through the state party, and we received fundraising support from Congressman Emmanuel Cleaver, Congressman Adam Schiff, and Senator Amy Klobuchar, raising over $1.1 million as a party. And we're hoping to raise more than that this year and get the resources we need to our local counties as we hope. Lastly, on the right side there, we have the most experienced staff I've seen in a long time at the party, and their pictures and their names and their background are on the right side there. We have a very good staff that we hired, that we put together over the past year. What we're going to focus on as a party is, and how we win is, well, kind of go, I'm not going to read all from this, but kind of go through our three major buckets. It's voter education, voter registration, and voter motivation, voter persuasion. Number one, we got to do a voter education. Democrats cannot take Black, Hispanic, and other diverse voters for granted. We got this directly from Georgia, and it's very clear and it's very true here in Missouri. And when it comes to voter registration, we've got to register and turn out 200,000 new voters in Missouri by November 2024. Our goal this cycle is to do about 80,000 with us and our nonprofit and C4 partners. By 2024, we've got to increase that number to an additional 120,000. This slide will show that there are about 1 million unregistered voters in the state. Many of them come from your county, St. Louis County. About 10%, a little over. Well, I would say 14% of them come from St. Louis County. We'll need your help in registering voters, as many of you are already working on. And then, of course, right next door in St. Charles County, that's about 20% of those voters. There are 200,000 unregistered voters right there in both those two counties. But we know we can reach our goals by November 2024. Lastly, we've got to do voter persuasion, and we can flip 100,000 Republican voters by simply showing up in rural Missouri, by doing what we haven't done as well in the past, and that's by showing up. And especially, we have targeted, there are quite a few union voters in St. Louis County and St. Charles County that we can flip back to the party in ways that we haven't done in the past. Here is all that together is what we call our math to victory. There are about 1 million base voters in our party. In any general election, especially for presidential elections, there are about 1 million folks who base vote. There are about 400,000 voters that teeter from one general election to another, maybe vote in a primary, maybe not vote in a general, maybe vote in general, don't vote in the local. About 400,000 voters who need motivation to get out and vote, education motivation to get out and vote. Of course, we need to add on another 200,000 to register and turn out. And then lastly, we need to persuade 100,000 voters to come back to our side that have voted Republican in the past two cycles that we think. So we know that Missouri is more purple than we think, and that we can reach 1.7 million voters to win in this state. And we can only do that with your help. Here's what we're doing different this cycle that we think is going to absolutely net us that math. One, we're focusing on media. A lot of free things we're doing with a good communications director is TV and radio relationships. We're increasing our earned media across the state, especially in places where I call not preaching to the choir. The choirs in St. Louis, Columbia, and Kansas City media markets. There are 7 other media markets across the state that we have been absolutely ghosting, that we are doing much better as a party getting out to. So, developing a social media sharing tree, creating rural podcasts and rural talk radio. We've had a very good success in print media op-eds, especially outside of the choir in our other 7 media markets. And of course, email marketing, which many of you probably get several of our emails per week or per month. Nextly, recruitment is important. Having good candidates to run, like Tracy McCreary for state senate, is very important to us. We've contracted with an organization called Contest Every Race, which is more focused on local races, like the county collector race or the local mayor or city council race. Our goal is to recruit tier 1 and tier 2 candidates over the next 2 cycles to make sure that we have great candidates statewide and state legislature, and we have certain profiles that we think will fare better in certain areas, and those are listed. And of course, we've had recruitment committees that Al is ahead of one of them in order to improve the type of recruitment that we do as a party. And last, outreach is our most important thing. And starting really soon, our biggest goal is to transform the face of the party everywhere, which is to open up regional offices and have 10 regional staffed offices across the state. Of course, at least one in St. Louis County that we'll fund, that we will fund, but give quite a bit of autonomy and quite a bit of get direction from the local county committees from. We want to have regional events. We want to have regional voter registration, regional voter education, and regional voter motivation, and then and connect those regional staff and county committee folks with charitable organizations like Ms. Pullen mentioned, with her sorority, that to either attach on or to expand on the work that they do to let folks know that Democrats care. Last thing is, you may see in our that we've actually recently got funded is our what we call our highway sign initiative. Here's a mock-up of a sign you may see in your district, in your county, pretty soon, to expand to further let folks know and voters know that the bad things that Republicans who vote against the infrastructure bill are doing. There was a big I-270 expansion that was included into the federal infrastructure bill that your own Congressman Ann Wagner voted against. And we want to make sure people know that. And there are several other projects in St. Louis County that she voted against. And we want to let folks know that on the other side, the Democrats delivered money for that. And the truth is, guys, these Republicans are so bold. They voted against the bill, and now they're trying to show up at groundbreaking ceremonies. And we want to make sure that our voters and folks around the county know that they didn't want that there, and it was Democrats who delivered those results for them. Lastly, we want you to know that we're a new Missouri Democratic Party. We have a plan, and most importantly, we consider ourselves a family from the local county committees all the way to our statewide office holders. And we want to make sure that everyone feels welcome, that we're taking your input, and that we're present in your communities. And we can mostly do that with those 10 regional offices that we're feverishly raising money for to get launched as soon as possible. With that, I'll stop sharing my screen. And Harvey, did you want me to wait to the end for questions, or for me to take questions now?
I think you can take some questions. Well, maybe we should wait till the end, because there should be some overlap here between our 3 panelists, and hopefully some of those questions will be answered. Thank you very much. Nelson Mitten, Chair of the St. Louis County Democratic Central Committee. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Harvey, and thank you very much for inviting me, and thanks for everyone that's coming here. Our township had a recent meeting by Zoom and did not have nearly the attendance folks have. So I want to compliment you on those efforts. First, I'll give a little background about what is the county committee. The county committee is set up under state law, and each party has what they call a county committee that is elected at the every 4 years at the primary before the general election. The county committee is to basically handle the affairs of the party, those parties they're respected to, between general elections, or actually even other every 2-year elections. And the primary business of the party would be to select candidates if there's a vacancy in any of the state representatives, state senate, and as well as the county seats. Those are the statutory duties, but the county committee is actually much more, and I'll explain a little bit more and further about that. St. Louis County, unlike most counties, as Harvey indicated, is the largest county in the state of Missouri by population, having over 1 million people. We have 28 townships within St. Louis County, and each township is represented on the central committee by a person who identifies as male and one who identifies as female. And that's, again, required by state law. So we have a total of 56 people on our committee. And their job is to, again, operate the actions of the party between the general elections. But we also make use of them to organize, to assist in organizing clubs in their township level, and to keep them active and going, and to communicate information. The committee people will then communicate the information from the central committee down to the township clubs. And to give you an example of some of the size, the average population of a township in the state of Missouri, in St. Louis County, is around 35 to 40,000 people. And that's more people in our townships than I think a third of the counties in St. Louis, in the state of Missouri, have in terms of population. So that shows you how big and sizable we are. And furthermore, St. Louis County is the biggest Democratic engine in the state in terms of not only number of votes already gotten, but number of votes hopefully we can get for the future. And I want to piggyback on Michael in terms of organization in St. Louis County is key to any statewide win because of the number of people we have. Now, in the past, the county has basically pretty much operated in terms of local township clubs doing a lot of the organization at a local level. And then the county committee would usually provide funds for pro-democratic advertising, either in the late summer, but usually after the primary in August, between the primary and the general election. This year, we would like to perhaps expand that role. Chairman Butler did mention that there may be a grant program allowing certain places, counties, to establish local offices with executive directors that can drive our democratic politics longer than just during an election cycle. We have been looking into that, and despite the fact that there may not be grant money, in the next month or so, we will be discussing whether we can provide the financing to establish an office in St. Louis County that would then provide year-round support for candidates and the Democratic Party in general. And that's something we'll be discussing as a county in the near future. The next item that I think the county will focus on, we've already done last winter, we did one voter registration drive. And this year, I believe hopefully the county will support multiple registration drives, again, relying upon local committeemen and their township clubs to provide the power and the people that are needed to provide that sort of organization and registration efforts. Politics many times begins at the foot level and knocking on doors. And our registration efforts last year was met by mailing, and hopefully we'll have a downturn in COVID, which will allow and let people be freer to go up and knock on doors and to attempt to get more registration. And I think more registration, especially in some of the areas of our county, will only provide and assist us in getting more votes for the Democrats. And then finally, I think we'll probably, again, revisit our efforts in terms of promotion of Democratic candidates as a general world after the primary and before the fall election. In the past, that's meant renting billboards along major thoroughfares, primarily 270. in other areas. We have also done a fair amount of targeted social media in the last election, and I hope those efforts would also improve. So those are the efforts that I think the county committee will be taking on in the next year to try to support the Democratic Party, both locally and statewide.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Very useful information. I appreciate the background. Our next distinguished guest is Alan Gerber, Chair of the Missouri 2nd Congressional District Democratic Party. And the focus, I believe, I don't mean to steal any of your thunder, is to get Ann Wagner out and a good person who cares about us in. With that, the floor is yours.
Absolutely, you're right. You're right. I first want to say thank you for the gentlemen who spoke before me are actually my two bosses on other committees. I'm a committee man for the county, and Nelson is the chairman, and I'm also state committeeman. So Michael's the chairman for me there too. So I very much respect what they're doing. And I wanted us to share my screen to show what we've been doing at the congressional district level. See how I can do it here. All right, is that shared?
No.
There you go. It's coming through now.
Okay, so what we've been doing is in the 2nd Congressional District, we have been holding it over the last, since last summer, we've been holding some meetings in different parts of the district, all the way from Fenton in Jeffco or before, south of Fenton, all the way up to St. Charles County, which is still part of our district now. And we've been holding meetings, 3 separate meetings, where we ask people, what do we need to do to flip the 2nd District blue and to keep it that way for 10 years and beyond, of course. But 10 years was the horizon for what we were thinking. And these groups came and spent an afternoon meeting, and just, we had pages and pages of notes and suggestions and everything, and we boiled them down into this strategic plan, which I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I'm going to go to one particular page. Just want to show you that there's a lot of, there is a lot of substance to this plan, and it's going to take me a minute to get down to that page. There we go. I want to talk to this one here, because what we actually ended up with was some activities here that we need to concentrate on. Okay, there we go. And what we came up with was a list of 6 different areas that we wanted to work on. Now, some of these areas are being handled by the central committee, the county central committee, and others by the state. And in those cases, we're not going to spend any time trying to lead those. We're just going to be followers in that area as much as we can. For example, under voters, here mentions registration and turnout. I know the county committee has a strong effort in that area, and so all we'll do is be workers for that and encourage that to go on. So some of the areas that we are trying to work on in the 2nd District are in the communications area. I see the state is working a lot on areas like newspapers and the media and that kind of thing. We're mostly focusing on digital in our group, and we've got people who are interested in producing the content that would be shown. We've got people who are interested in actually production, which means making, if it's a short video, producing that video, or if it's graphic design, doing that. And then last, distribution. We've got some techies who are doing the research on how to use Facebook and how to use the other digital type medias to distribute these messages and to get people to sign up to help us and to hopefully contribute money even. So we have meetings going on for that. Anybody who's interested in that kind of thing, who wants to help out, wants to learn about it, we don't want to be paying experts from outside. We want to get that information and that expertise in the party, because what we found is they charge an awful lot of money and we never really know what the results are. So we're trying to get that expertise in the party. Anybody's interested in that kind of thing, I'll leave my email address in the chat, and you can please contact me and we'll get you involved in that. A couple of other things we're working hard on is the finance, which we're doing our own financing here. We're going to be helping finance. I've already talked to our distinguished state chairman about this, and we're going to be working together with them to help finance our activities and their activities. So the second district is probably where a lot of the money comes from in the state, I think. And so that's what we're going to be mining that. Some other activities we haven't started yet, and these are things that we need help on. So any of you who are interested in working at the second district level, one is data management and IT support. There have been complaints that our voter database, which we call the VAN, I think it stands for Voter Activation Network, is fairly weak out in certain parts of the second district. And part of that is because we haven't had competitive races in some areas. And so we need help in improving this by making sure we're reaching out to people that we think might be Democrats, and making sure that we get them marked in the van, and just improving it in a lot of ways. So we need help. Any of you who are kind of, like to work with computers, like to work with data, please reach out to us. Another part of the infrastructure, which we already did, have been working on, is strategic plan. This, I'm not really going to publish it here because this is going out to the public, but anybody who's interested, contact me and I'll work with you directly. I've already sent copies of this to Nelson and to Chairman Butler, so they've already seen what we're doing in this plan. So I think I just want to give the impression that we are active. We've got a good group. Our board is all active in the second district, which has not been the case in the past. Our chair, our vice chair, treasurer, secretary. We have an executive director, not a paid position exactly, but somebody who's helping out at that level. One other thing I wanted to mention, we are going to be having some events coming up when COVID calms down a little bit. One event we want to have is if you've ever seen speed dating, we do a speed dating event with candidates where people can go around from table to table and meet the candidates, and only for a couple of minutes, but still it's a good chance to meet a candidate, ask a question face to face, and we've had real success with that in the past. We're going to be doing several different kinds of events in the second district. Now, our main, as Harvey mentioned, our main goal is flipping the second district as at the congressional level. This is one of the districts that the national, the DCCC thinks is flippable, and so that we're talking with them already and reaching out to them for possible ways we can work together with them before the primary. Let's see, I guess my last thing is a pitch. Just anybody who's interested in getting rid of Ann Wagner and working with us, please contact me and I will find something for you to do. Okay, so thank you very much, Harvey.
Thank you. Very, very helpful and hopeful as well. I do want to take a moment and just point out just some quick statistics for folks. St. Louis County has roughly 1 million people. In contrast, the entire state has just over 6 million people. So St. Louis County is a major economic and political engine. On top of that, CD2, Congressional District 2, has roughly 720,000 people, I believe is the current number, somewhere roughly between 720 and 750,000. So these are significant chunks of our communities, and thank you for everyone's efforts to bring good governance to us all. With that, I want to open up the question and answer period and also introduce my great helper, Alan Harris Dalt, who will be watching to see if folks have their hands raised or if anyone's put a question in the chat. Alan, are you with us right now?
I am.
Excellent. So folks, if you don't know how to raise your hand electronically, then just raise your hand on the screen and we will get to everybody. We should have a fair amount of time to do that. So questions and answers are open now. We have, Sandra, it looks like you have your hand up, and then Alan, I'll let you take it from there.
My question is for Michael Butler. Michael, do you have a prediction or estimate on how we can possibly take some seats from the Republican Party and for the state legislature and for the state Senate? Right now, we're outnumbered tremendously. So is there any chance of us having some kind of number? Do you have any estimates on that?
Absolutely, yes. During the state legislative redistricting commissions this year, as recently as December 23rd, we presented maps to those commissions that had as many as 14 state Senate districts drawn, up from 10 current state Senate districts. And on the House side, as many as 67 state legislative districts, up from the 47, state House districts, up from the 47 current state House districts. You guys might have seen in the news, the state Senate commission the Republicans did not agree to our map. They brought together a map of 9 state Senate districts, which we absolutely disagree with. And that process is 95% likely to be, those maps will be drawn by the courts, go to the judicial system. We feel very confident that the courts will draw at least 12 Democrat-leaning state Senate, Democrat state Senate districts, which will be a gain of 2 in the state Senate, our hope this cycle. And our goal is to get to 14 by 2024. We think that we've had plenty of maps, and the way population is moving, that there is a possibility for us to get to 16 by 2028. It's a pretty far prediction out ahead, but by 2024, it conceived for us to do 12 or 13. At least, very confident we can do 12 or 13 state Senate, just an additional 2 or 3. In the state House, where the work is still going on, we did have an agreement on December 23rd on tentative maps in the State House Commission. The final maps will be voted on January 23rd. Our most likely map for the State House includes what we would consider 65 winnable Democrat State House districts. That's an upgrade of 18 seats from what we currently have for us, that are current members of the State House. We think, and that is by 2024. In this cycle, we believe there are, it was 57 winnable state House districts, and then 65 winnable House districts by 2024. That includes 57 safe Democrat districts in 2024. So the good news for all those numbers together is that there takes 12 seats to break the supermajority in the state Senate, and 55 seats to break the supermajority in the state House. We believe we've secured the correct amount of districts to do that by 2024. Now, when it comes to taking a majority, there's going to be a lot of work that needs to be done between now and then in both St. Louis County and St. Charles to get close to the majority by the end of the decade.
Thank you so much.
All right, and we had a question in the chat from Thomas Tobin. Who all are the Democratic candidates running for the 2nd District congressional seat? Al, you want to take that one?
You bet. Trish Gunby is running, we know well here. Ben Samuels is also running, young man who's getting some good attention with his fundraising. And we have one more, Ray Reed, who's a new young man. Not even sure he's 25 yet, but I mean, he will be by the time of the election, so he can run also. So we have 3 people out there actively running right now.
I think I saw another hand raised. Yeah, Bert, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much, Michael, Nelson, Al, for all the work you're doing. There's the sense that I just want to comment on is the need for ultra urgency. And thank you, Michael, for what you're doing. It's a breath of fresh air. I think cannot forget right now 2022. You're talking about 2024, but 2022, as you see from a national perspective and everything, is crucial. So I just wanted to see if you would comment on that. I've got a couple of other remarks I'd like to make. So I could either just say them now, ask you now, or you could answer and then come back at it.
Sure, I don't mind. So 2022, is an important year for us. I just think it's always important for us to not think cycle by cycle with the party, just one cycle at a time. One thing that was common when I first became chair is that, and what I witnessed as a former state legislator, is that we always were focused on the election in front of us and not the elections ahead of that and getting ahead of the game. So while we're making it clear that we are 1 year we're 12 months into a 4-year plan in 2022, and how we come back and build in 2020 is important to what we do in 2024. To be honest, our focus number 1 in 2022 is to rebuild the infrastructure that has gone away in the party, and to build the machine that is going to win, hopefully in November 2022, but absolutely has to be calibrated for 2024. That is our goal is to not eat the elephant all in one cycle, and to be sure to not be making decisions that just fit in this cycle, but that fit for an entire decade. So that means our focus is, of course, not number 1 winning, but number 1 rebuilding infrastructure. Number 2, changing the atmosphere and around how people feel about Democrats all across the state, especially in areas where we felt falling below 50%, whether you consider them counties or state legislative districts where we fall below 50%, to change the narrative around what Democrats are. And then number 3, winning those elections. And to be quite frankly, Republicans have done a better job at those first 2 than us. They set the tone well for those candidates, and it makes it easier for those candidates to win. That's what we want to do. We have a U.S. Senate race coming up, and we have 2 tier 2 Senate candidates that we think could play very well against either of the Republican candidates that are vying in their primary right now. We're playing to win. We play everything
Absolutely.
to win. But to be clear, if we get within single digits, and especially within 5 points this cycle, we're going to be a presidential swing state come 2024. And I just don't see how we lose if that happens. I mean, we're going to be organized and we'll get all the money. So while we're playing to win, having lost by 17 points in 2020, it absolutely makes us look good. And some people say in the terms, and I can say here, with a group of good Democrats, is how to lose better and how to make sure we don't lose by 17, but lose by 4 or 5. We're not planning on that. We're gonna plan to win. There's too much at stake to let Eric Greitens or Eric Schmidt become a U.S. senator.
That's true.
But to be clear, we've got a lot of work to do. We need every single person on board and have a direct plan to make sure that happens.
How are you going to handle the misinformation and lies that are going to be flying both for 2022 and 24?
Man, my first response to say that we're gonna, I was gonna say we're gonna have some of our own, but the truth is we're gonna have some of our own truths. Okay, the truth is we got some good experience in practice during the redistricting period, and what I've always preached as a state legislative leader, and how you beat Republicans is to get out ahead of them. in the past, what I've seen our leadership, and listen to in the state house when folks are ahead, where we tend to lose were when we were behind the 8 ball. We let them release something first. We let them say nasty things first. Case in point right now is a critical race theory. When we let them lead with misinformation, then we tend to be defensive as a party. We just had an officer call at 5:30 today where we were talking about what are the next big issues. And I like to push our communication staff and officers and our infrastructure to say, how do we get ahead of the next messaging? And how do we make sure we release something first? And every step of the way in the redistricting commission, we released our maps first. We set up our rules first that we wanted the commissions. We forced them to move to them. We were always more prepared than they were. And we're playing in the same way here this election cycle. The number one you'll see pretty quickly is one, you see how that billboard where we're trying to get out ahead of the infrastructure bill. We want to change the narrative on Ann Wagner in Congress with people like her and Josh Hawley about how they voted against the needs of Missouri. Number two is that in the state legislature, there's currently a $5 billion surplus. 5 with a B, $1 billion that we have in a surplus in the state budget. And after the congressional map work is done, that is going to be probably the biggest topic in Jefferson City for about a month and a half. We're trying to push our legislative leaders to not allow the Republicans to say how they're going to spend that money and lie about how they give that money away. Rather we get out ahead of those issues and we get and let people know what Democrats think. So we're gonna push back against misinformation by focus on what's positive about Democrats. We're also gonna focus on issues that people care about, and we're gonna be proactive about that and not reactive to what they say.
And can you get that message down to the county, all the more rural counties to the local level with local or regional county type newspapers and all that kind of stuff?
So the direct answer that you won't hear ever from a party chair be complete today, no. Today the answer is no. And that's the $700,000 question of why we need regional offices. And our goal as a party is to create that infrastructure, to raise that kind of money for this year and then move it into next cycle, that as a party, we can send out a press release to the 200 people in the media that we have. That's print, TV, radio, media. But we don't have enough personal relationships with those media folks that a local executive director, regional director can have, that we need to hire in those areas to say, hey, here's what's important. We can't organize as well as that local person can with nonprofit organizations and superintendents that these issues affect at the state party level that local person can. So we will have that by the end of this cycle, and we're going to have that firing on all cylinders by November and moving forward. But okay. That's why that's so important. It pains me today that we don't have that up and running, and I know a lot of folks are waiting for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bert.
I will take a little liberty here to say I posted in the chat a link to a messaging handbook that I have found just invaluable in terms of how to communicate with people. And it taps into what Chair Butler was saying. We can't be on the defense with the dung. I'll use a better word, the dung that they're shoveling, right? They're sending out a bunch of trash that has no basis in fact and is red meat for their base. We can't win without getting a really big choir to sing really, really loud over and over and over again. And it's our job as people who are engaged and concerned to do all we can to learn, and then to be talking about it everywhere we can, with our friends, with our communities, with our neighbors. And I'm preaching to the choir, right? That's why we're here. But also we can't stop preaching to the choir, because if our choir is not singing, nobody's picking up our message. And a message that isn't passed is a message that will not persuade and will not engage and will not motivate. That being said, Kathy Merrick in the chat asked, is there any deep canvassing training that's going on to use in phone banking or in-person canvassing? Anybody want to jump in on that?
Go ahead, Al.
Yeah, I could. I do know that we are working together with Deb Lavender, who is doing that. And anybody who is willing to do that and to learn how to do it, get in touch with me. I'll put you in touch with Deb. We're helping her out with that, and she is starting that activity. I think she stopped for some cold weather, but she'll be picking it up here soon. So yeah, get in touch with me.
They also, you know, in St. Charles County, Jobs with Justice is doing that sort of canvassing out here. They've got a whole program and somebody assigned to do it out here in the county.
All right, and then we've got another from the chat. In addition to increasing voter registration, what are some of the other things that they did that can be done here? So maybe since that's a state level question, Chairman Butler, you want to take that?
Sure. Can you repeat that question for me?
Sure. So in Georgia, they're a good role model. In addition to increasing voter registration, what are some of the other things they did in Georgia that we can repeat here?
One thing that the Georgian Democrats did well was partner with non-Democrat organizations. Ms. Pullen mentioned the members of Alpha Kappa Alpha, so sorority that's probably the largest African-American fraternity sorority in the entire country. They do a lot of community work. They do a lot of voter registration. I think their motto is service to all mankind, if I'm correct. My grandmother, wife, and mother are all AKs. Partner with those organizations and not just depending on the Democrats ourselves is really what changed things in Georgia. It's important to know that everybody knows the story that Stacey Abrams was a Democrat leader, but she got her Nobel Peace Prize nomination for being a community organization leader, for starting a voter registration program that then partnered with the Democratic Party. So I've learned really in the past year that when us as a party, we do things on our own, they don't turn out too well. And then when some of those organizations do things on their own, they don't turn out too well. But when we work together, man, we kick butt and things get really organized. So on top of voter registration, of course, partnering with organizations who are already doing voter registration, who are already doing community work, not reinventing the wheel, adding on to what is already existing can be very beneficial. And also it improves our brand as a party because we're helping, we're not competing. The third thing that a direct project that worked well, and that we actually, as a party, met with some leaders from Georgia on, was a postcard project. And many of you have done this before in local elections. Some of you might have wrote, I think Carl wrote in, some of you might have wrote in postcards to Georgia. It was very successful for voter turnout. We're gonna have one of those here in Missouri this cycle. So getting ready for it. So what a postcard project does is that it drives turnout because it's a mailer that is much more flashy and personalized than a campaign mailer that is directed to somebody that says, "Hi, Carla," and Carla knows about this, and it has little personalized notes on it, and it allows that person to pick up, say, you know what, I'm going to vote this time around. That's something that worked very well. It worked very well for in some local, like in a sense, Wesley Bell preaches by this as well in St. Louis. He had somewhat of a postcard project when he ran for prosecutor attorney. So many of you are familiar with this. We really want to make sure we're not missing an opportunity this cycle.
Yeah, Carla, looks like you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
On the voter registration, obviously every single individual voter is important, but are there any particular demographics that you're targeting? It seems to me like we need to be going after a lot of young people who are invested in different issues like climate and other things that can help get them motivated for activities relating to our initiatives on that kind of thing too.
Carl, is that a question for me or for any of us?
Well, I volunteered on the postcard thing and I've done, phoning and so forth, but I think the front end work of getting people registered is really important. And who are we trying to register?
Very good question.
Whoever
So,
wants to answer it, Michael, please go ahead.
yeah, so in the who are we trying to register? Number one, we are trying to register folks in high Democratic areas. We're going to be doing hot spotting and direct action registration in St. Louis City, St. Louis County, in Jackson County, and parts of Boone County. When you get out of the choir areas, there tends to be it's hard for us as a party and then our nonprofit partners to just do hotspotting and overarching registrations because we don't want to register our opponents' voters. So what you do there is more direct targeted voting with either mail or volunteer actions or the volunteer door knocking, and we're gonna we already have plans to do those types of things, especially in there are certain, without giving away too much strategy, there are certain areas in Republican districts that are more likely to be Democrat than others. I love your part about who too, because the other thing I've thought a lot about the who we need to pick up over the past year, and I like to call them buckets of voter profiles that we need to do a better job of and be proactive in. And I have a list that I've been actually pitching to a few legislative leaders, and going to be more over the next few weeks. And that is educators is number one, of course, with how with CRT and with the Republican push to ban CRT and the Republican really agenda against education for the past 10 years. We need to be more proactive and better with educators. Labor members is absolutely, as I mentioned before, a profile that we need to do better at. As simple as showing up to labor union local labor union meetings all across the state. Healthcare workers is a pickup for us all across the state. Healthcare workers, from home healthcare workers to hospital workers, they feel disenchanted by Republicans who are making their job impossible nowadays. I have on here in criminal folks who've been through the criminal justice system as well. This is a profile that is not racial or socioeconomic. It is more of a socioeconomic. There are folks all across the state who have had negative experiences with the criminal justice system, and there are several ways we can engage them proactively, and especially in parts we haven't done well, pick up quite a few votes. So between those and I think it's important to, between those, I think it's important to bounce out of our normal racial minority and, this age and socioeconomic profiles and dig a little deeper about what people are feeling on the ground. And I think I'm sure there are several more that we'll hear from our legislators while we engage them over the next, until now to the end of session.
And actually, if I could kind of tack on a little bit, Michael, just from the seeing on the education side, a lot of educators do not like Schmidt. So that's a good thing. I'm seeing it. I know a lot of teachers and administrators, at least, and more than just Parkway even. And the crap he's been throwing out about school boards not being able to do mandates and things like that, I think it's a little bit more in people's faces than it may have been without the crisis we're in. So if there's anything you can take from the crisis, it's that people do not like Schmidt for the most part. So that's a good thing.
I was going to say, I can second that from my wife's point of view, who is a teacher. Yeah, same thing. Definitely what he said.
Thanks, yeah.
And since those were the two school board candidates, I will mention that Dale and Dave Steinberg put a comment in the chat that postcards work well in school board races too, where turnout is typically low. So if you want to take that advice for your campaigns, feel free to do so. There's another question in the chat from Thomas Tobin. Again, is there any serious risk that the Republicans in the Missouri legislature or the Secretary of State's office will attempt to pass legislation during this year's session to restrict voting or manipulate results in Missouri, as so many Republican-controlled states have done in the past year? Yes, but if anybody wants to elaborate on that, feel free.
Absolutely. Al, did you want to elaborate a little bit? Sorry, Heather.
Yeah, I don't have any more than anybody, maybe Tracy or somebody could do that, what they're trying to do in Jeff City. I do know there was a recent hearing. No, that was on education. That's right. It's coming up. Voting is coming up. So
They absolutely, so there is absolutely a push to, one, make local elections partisan. They think that that'll be helpful to them to, in a sense, get a head-on-head race with a Republican and Democrat in school board elections or mayor elections, where we, like I said, we have Democrats who won in the past. But there also is a push to seal more things within the board of elections and or county clerks to allow them more power and maybe a little more autonomy. The truth is, guys, and I don't know how much this does happen in St. Louis County, but next door in St. Charles, there are Democrats in St. Charles who say there's been cheating going on for years, and the Republicans have been cheating. The reason why they're accusing us of cheating is because they are, and they can't understand how we possibly won when they were cheating. And I think that is part of the basis for some of these changes. And we're going to see some bills. Now, I will say this from my perspective, as long as we keep the light on these bills, they won't go very far because they're obviously partisan, obviously hurtful to our democracy. But I've been around Republicans in Jefferson City enough to know that if they can sneak something through, they absolutely will.
And then I'd just like to add the other thing that seems to be fast-tracked has to do with initiative petition reform. As you know, we've been frustrated for many, many years when the legislature refuses to act on things that the public wants them to do. And so they've used the initiative petition process to get things done, like raising the minimum wage, passing marijuana for medical purposes, Medicaid expansion, things like that. So what some in the conservative majority are trying to do is make it much, much harder for regular folks to get things done. And it had a hearing last week in the House, and it appears to be kind of one of the Republican Party's priorities this session.
Several cycles ago, there was an initiative to try and get a Democratic candidate running in every county in the state as a means of trying to show a different side to some of the misinformation that was being spouted out, especially in these rural areas. Is any such effort going to be done now, or is there a better way to communicate out to these thinly populated areas?
The honest answer to that is yes and no. So several cycles ago, that was when Claire McCaskill was running for re-election in 2018. That is always been an old school and true school way of increasing voter turnout. By the more candidates that are running, the more folks that are working on the ground, the more likely we are to drive out votes. And the party was successful in recruiting candidates for state house and state senate and driving out turnout. Of course, we didn't drive out enough for Claire McCaskill to win. I would say that while we are repeating that, we are repeating that more in conjunction with the House Democratic Campaign Committee and not just from our organization this time around. The House Democratic Campaign Committee has their own recruiting person and their own staff that are doing a fine job to recruit folks. It is not a direct priority of the state parties. Our job is to set an infrastructure that when those candidates are recruited, that they have help on the ground. So we like to say we're taking that a step further. In 2018, when that state rep was recruited in even parts of St. Louis County or even in rural Missouri, they would literally be the only Democrat in their state legislative district. They didn't have really, so many of them did not have a campaign manager. They didn't have a lot of help. Our goal is, as a party, our job now is after the HCC recruits them, that there is an infrastructure present, that someone they can call on, get and have staff that can help them, and volunteers from county committees that can help. We see our role is to build up those county committees, and the HCC's role is to recruit those candidates. And we think conjoining with that is going to net us better results than 2018. So yes, as in that's still going on. No, it's not our direct recruitment responsibility at this point.
It also causes the Republican candidates to have to spend money on their own campaign instead of feeding it to other people. So that's another benefit of just having somebody run.
Agreed.
Maureen Jordan asked, I want to download the draft of the strategic plan. I can't figure out how to do it. I assume that's for the link that you shared, Chairman Butler. You're muted.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can download that. That's just more of our online flip thing that you can send to folks. I'm not sure if I think you have to, I think you can, it's just like you can share an email to yourself, but that's not an actual document. It's more of it's just an online ability to read the documents.
One thing you could do is click the link to open it up in your browser and then save that as a bookmark or a favorite, depending on what your browser calls it. You could save it to go back to every time, but you would still need an internet connection to be able to access it. Any other questions? There were some comments, but if there are other questions, I want to take those first. Okay, not seeing any, so I'll go back and read a couple of the comments. Maureen also said that the GOP knows how to package their lies into effective messaging to rally their base, because we know that what they're talking about being taught in schools is not actually taught in schools. We know that defund the police is not a Democratic-wide campaign slogan, but it doesn't matter because it riles up their base and they get people out to vote with it. And then Harvey, sort of not in response to that, but a great response to that is sharing a link from Indivisible Illinois from Anat Shenker Osorio, who is also, she was mentioned earlier in the chat by Ellen Wentz. She's who I was sort of quoting with my preaching to the choir stuff. I love her, and Harvey says this recording is worth the time. It's good instruction on messaging. And yeah, she's absolutely inspiring. And
yeah, and if I can have a couple of words on that. For those of you familiar with the name Frank Luntz, he's the Republican communication strategist. Annette Shenker Osorio is now the Democratic version of that. She is spot on how to reach out and convince people that they need to be voting for Democrats. Well worth the time. She's been on a lot of media, MSNBC and other places. If you haven't heard of her yet, you will be hearing about her, I guarantee, during this election cycle. That's all I have to say. Are there any other questions or comments?
Yeah, Dale, go ahead. Dale. You're still muted, Dale. There we go.
Go ahead.
Okay. I just want to say that I think it's very important to have a Democratic candidate for every office, because it's really demoralizing if other Democrats in the whatever race it is who live in that area, if they don't have a Democrat to vote for, it's totally demoralizing. And even if the candidate doesn't have a well-organized campaign, the candidate can still report to forums and respond, to questions and requests for information, if nothing else. So, but my main point is that it's demoralizing for a Democrat not to have a candidate to vote for.
I would absolutely agree to that. Absolutely.
Yes, Sidel, is that how you say it? You've got to unmute. There we go. Sidel, you're unmuted, but I can't hear you. No. It's actually coming through sort of squeaky on my end. I don't know if anybody else is. Maybe you could type it into the chat or try a different audio connection. It's still, yeah, let's try again. Does anybody else have a question or comment? Okay, then I'll ask, for those of you who've said anything, what do you have for us to jump into? Do you have events ready? Do you have canvassing or voter registration, or what can we do to sign up, and what can we sign up for right now?
I just mentioned I did put my email in the chat, so please contact me and we'll find something for you to do at the congressional district level.
So Al, check with your microphone. It might be turned down too low.
I would, as part of you, I would absolutely tell you to keep doing what you're doing and dial into your local township and your St. Louis County Central Committee first. We do have standing committees that we could use help on, like especially ones that deal with voter registration, voter education, and voter motivation. But it's best to look locally first and see what your local folks need first.
Al, I think you had mentioned this in your presentation, but I will say, just from when I'm going through, social media is a great tool. That's been most of the basis of my candidacy for the most part, and it's so far doing a good job. And I know you said that was a focus for you, and I think that's a good focus, at least from where I sit.
And then on the flip side, I'd say if anybody in the audience, if you will, is interested in signing up for something, drop that in the chat so we all see what you're doing. Because again, if we're not talking about it, then we're missing out on some energy. So if there's anything that you've heard tonight, you're like, oh, I want to do that. Don't just contact the person. Say so now. I actually used to be a choir director, so I'm all about getting the choir to sing.
Well, thank you for that, Alan. I appreciate it. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, with that, I hope everyone has found this an inspiring and encouraging evening. I certainly have. Looking forward to campaign 2022. And better than that, having our people in office. So thank you all very much.
Harvey, before you get off, Harvey?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Before you sign off, I would just like to comment on a very nice program this evening, but also those of you who have received membership envelopes from the Creve Coeur Democratic Township Club. We would like for you to join us again. If you know someone in our township that you would like to get to join our township club, I think you can contact Cindy Jackson. She's our membership chair currently. And also the money that we collect is used to help our candidates. So if we don't have too much money, we can't give the candidates too much money in their running for office. So our money is primarily used for that. And I certainly would appreciate those of you that have joined and those of you that would like to join, please check your mail. We sent out envelopes back in a couple of weeks ago. So get those memberships back in so we can build our little money up for supporting candidates. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Same goes Maryland Heights Township Democratic Club, which includes a chunk of Chesterfield, which is where I live. Also, if you're interested in joining, if you got an invitation for this, you can respond to that, and that will get to me. So thank you, everybody. Any other parting comments from our panel? I really appreciate everyone's time.
I was just gonna say, I just want to say thank you for everyone's time.
And thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. I think it's been a very good evening. Thank you, everybody. Stay tuned for our next meeting, third Monday of every month. We will see you in February. Bye.